Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Tuesday. It's Daryl P, aka Artist in Recovery, and once again, I am coming to you from my treadmill workout. And once again, I would like to talk about Belle the Ranch's videos. Today, I want to give you my. It might be insignificant, it might be shallow, but a couple points that stuck out to me about the recent Putin and Zelensky meetings with Donald Trump. I watched two videos in particular of Belle's, and I'll post them down below. One is titled Trump Giving Into Putin or something like that, and then the second one just is her latest one that is let's talk about Ukraine borders and a ceasefire, I believe. So one of her videos basically talks about the meeting with Putin, and one talks about the meeting with Zelensky. Okay, so let me go over her videos. And as usual, I agree completely with everything she says. I love how, even though that Belle has taken over the videos from Beau, let me be honest and blunt with you guys. The title of Belle's videos I find very boring. Like when I try to look through the video titles, and they bore me to death. The first, it's tradition. It's her brand, Beau's brand. But let's talk about. But then a good part of the title gets obscured, and there's really not anything that grabs your attention. Like Beau was still able to put a title on that grabbed your attention. Like let's talk about being black, or let's talk about cops asking me for advice, or Beau had the ability, the talent to really grab your attention with a title, and I don't see that as much with Belle. But even though, I'll be honest, sometimes I actually have to force myself to watch one of Belle's videos because it seems boring when I first look at it. But when I hate to say that, and I never felt that way when it was Beau doing it. But let me say this: once I start watching the video for the first 30 seconds, it grabs me. And it's got the traditional learning aspects of it that really pull me in. The things that you don't get from any other media source. That tells you the specifics, the thought, the education, education behind the news. Okay, so with Putin, she basically talked about how Trump only had to not make things worse. That was all he needed to do to consider the Putin meeting a success, not screw things up, not make things worse. And not making things worse meant not negotiating land that he had no right to negotiate, meaning Ukrainian land, and not giving concessions to Putin, not talk about joining NATO, which he did, which he gave in to Putin. She talks about, this is the part of the Belle video that I really loved. She described in detail, specifically how Putin played Trump to get him to agree to not let Ukraine join NATO, and still make it look and make Trump think that he actually won the conversation, won the negotiation. Like he actually he played Trump like a fiddle. In other words, okay. The Zelensky meeting, Belle talks about why some of the other heads of state were there, like Finland, because they're concerned about Russia taking over their land too in the future. And if Ukraine doesn't join NATO, that just means that in the future Russia will attack again, will try to absorb more land. Might be Finland. The scary thing here that comes to my mind is how much alike the head of our country and the head of Russia are now, with Trump trying to take over Canada and Greenland, and Putin taking over Ukraine. The sickening, sad part of this all is Trump is more like Putin. He's more like the Russian leader than any other president we've ever had. He's more like Putin than being like an actual U.S. president. Okay, now here's the points that I want to make. I believe this, I truly believe this. I'm not saying this to troll or to bust Trump supporters ask, but I truly believe Trump just does things that benefit him. Of course, I think if you're anything like me, like most people that aren't Trump supporters, you see Trump for what he really is, and that's a self-obsessed, self-absorbed, arrogant narcissist. And this whole thing with running around, I mean, he is putting a lot of time and energy in all these peace negotiations. By the way, he just said that he has resolved 7 wars. I think that was the number he came up with, 7 wars that he's resolved. He came up with this whole pack of lies when he met Zelensky. I'll try to put the link down below. It was a PBS article, just like a bunch of things that he said that were just total bullshit, which is nothing new. Okay, the reason he's doing this is because he is just dying. He has to have a Nobel Peace Prize. He has to have that. Now that, of course, Obama he has to prove that he's better than the black man. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Trump will not rest. He will not be happy until he gets a Nobel Peace Prize. And I've read all these articles on how he's tried to nominate himself. He's tried to coerce people into nominating him. Then he made himself the head of the Kennedy Center and wanted to nominate himself for the Kennedy Center Award. And it's all about him. How Trump supporters don't see this, I don't know. How he can just be so obvious about needing to be better than the one black president, and how racist that whole idea is. I don't know if Trump supporters are just as racist or they're just stupid and they don't see it. All right. Second thing I want to talk about is, this is kind of shallow and insignificant, but one of the things I noticed most of all was how Zelensky dressed. Okay. Because last time, who was it? Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, or was it the other one there? The other wacko Republican representative, the one that got caught giving getting caught giving blowies in the theater. What was her name? I can't remember. It was one of their boyfriends that made fun of Zelensky for not wearing a suit. I mean, that bothered me. That really, and this again, this cements my whole idea. I've talked about this, how Republicans are conformists. They need everybody to look, sound, and pray and talk exactly alike for them to feel comfortable, for them not to feel threatened, for them not to feel insecure. And that goes towards the LGBTQ community. How they want everybody to love the same. Immigration, all this stuff. And then you see it, it reminded me so much of schoolyard bullies. Like calling Zelensky out in front of the world. Ask him if he doesn't own a suit. I mean, it's juvenile. It's bullying behavior. And I think being an artist, I've always felt very independent, very rebellious. I'm pretty much the opposite of conformist. Just my personality, my character. So I do not get along well with conformists. The fact that Zelensky wore a black shirt, a black jacket, and black pants. It was a tad bit more dressier than the last time. So he kind of went along with it a little bit to look a little more dressed up, but he had no tie on. It wasn't a suit. And it's still, the thing, I respect him immensely for doing this, for not feeling pressured to be a bandwagon jumper, to do as everybody else does. To me, that shows a very strong character, especially after he was called out in front of the entire world by the boyfriend there, mocked basically in front of the whole world. The way he handled that and the way that he dressed, I really give him a lot of credit. It's earned him a lot more respect with me, or more respect than I already had for him. It shows a very strong character, that he's not going to succumb and to other, the way people think he should dress. You know, just the way you dress has nothing to do with the peace process, you know, and stopping bullets from flying. You know, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think. All right, the links will be down below for the 2 videos I just talked about, Belle's 2 videos. Have a good Tuesday.